Today we're going to be revisiting Dark Souls 3 7 years later. I don't necessarily have any big plans for this video. We're just going to be diving into a new game, starting a fresh character. We're just going to play for a bit. I'll kind of talk about the game, give some of my thoughts, and overall I just kind of wanted to revisit the game and just have some fun with it. Dark Souls 3 is definitely still one of my favorite Souls games. It's definitely in my top 3. Here we are at the cemetery of... Oh my gosh, dude. It feels so good to be playing this game. I haven't played a Souls game in a while. Got our Ashen Estus flask. Oh yeah, I forgot that this game had that for like the FP bars and stuff. All right, let's see if I still got the mechanics down. So you click the stick in to lock on. Okay, it's gonna take me a minute. I'm probably gonna die on Gundyr a couple of times because, like I said, I haven't played a Souls game since I made my Bloodborne 8 years later video. Immediately, we're not even 5 minutes into the game and we're already at a breathtaking view. Like, just, dude, From Software is crazy with like their art direction and graphics. It's just, it looks so good. So when it comes to Dark Souls 3, there's very few criticisms that I actually have in this game, if I'm gonna be honest. The only main one that I have is that most of the areas in this game I found to be rather forgettable, and there's actually quite a few areas in this game that I don't really like all that much. Like, you got the one jail area underground, I can't even remember the name of it. Then you got areas like Firelink Keep, which admittedly the boss in Firelink Keep is pretty good, which sort of kind of makes up for it, but otherwise I didn't really like that area, and just most of the areas in this game I didn't really find to stick with me long term. I can't even really name many of them off the top of my head. But before we continue on with that conversation, we're gonna try to fight Gundyr. I haven't fought a Souls boss in I don't even know how long. The last one that I fought was probably Cleric Beast in that Bloodborne video, so alright, here goes nothing. Alright, come here, Gundyr. Come on. Dude. Alright, come on. No! I'm joking! No! Oh my gosh, no. I can't die. Oh shoot, I'm almost dead. And there we go, there's Gundyr down. Okay, that got my pulse going just a bit. I wasn't sure if I was actually going to be able to defeat him. We got the coiled sword, we got the bonfire. Woo! This goes to show, it doesn't matter how good you think you are at Souls games or how many you've beaten before. If you take some time away, it definitely doesn't come back to you, like, instantly. Like, you definitely gotta work to get your skills back. God, if I was having that much trouble with Gundyr, I don't even want to know what it'd be like fighting somebody like the Abyss Watchers right now. Let alone something like Nameless King or Twin Princes. Oh my gosh. I've actually really been wanting to do another playthrough of Dark Souls 3. I've only ever done, like, 2 playthroughs of this game. I did the initial one for that series that we did, and then after that, I did a playthrough on my Xbox in order to, like, play the DLCs and all that, but otherwise, I haven't done any playthroughs of this game. This is my least played Souls game, which is really surprising considering that this is one of my favorite ones. For anyone curious, if I were to rank all of the Souls games, it would go Dark Souls 1, Demon Souls, and then Dark Souls 3, and then from there, I don't even know what all the other rankings would be at this point. Don't I have to put the sword down? Is there something else that I have to do? Can I do it now? Wait, it's not letting me do it. Is there a certain... Oh, yeah, you have to stand at a very specific point in front of it. I didn't realize. Let's all just sit for a second and enjoy the music. So good. I remember when I was doing my Dark Souls 3 series, every time that I started up this game, like before I started recording, I'd always hop into the game and I would just sit here at Firelink Shrine and I would just listen to the soundtrack. I'm not gonna get too overly sad or sappy in this video, but in the time that I was doing my original 3 Dark Souls series, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, I had some things going on in my life at the time. I can't tell you how many times, like, if, for example, in Dark Souls 1, I just sat at Firelink Shrine there and I listened to the music and I contemplated everything, and then Dark Souls 2, same thing in Majula, I just Turned on the game, sat in Majula, just kind of thought about life for a bit. In Dark Souls 3, I spent a lot of time doing that. Not as much as Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 1, I probably spent a solid, like, accumulative, like, 20 hours in total, literally just sitting at Firelink Shrine and just kind of thinking, contemplating life and all that. With Dark Souls 3, I'd probably say maybe more like 12, 15 hours, somewhere in that range. And here we are at the high wall of Lothric. Stepping out, dude, just stepping out into these Dark Souls areas again for, like, the first time just feels so good, feels so refreshing, and it reminds me of, like, why I fell in love with these games in the first place, or at least a part of why I fell in love with these games in the first place. Out of all the From Software games, you know, at this point, I've played Bloodborne, I've played Sekiro, I've played Elden Ring, I've played all the Souls games, including Demon Souls, and man, the Dark Souls, like, any of the games that have Souls in it, whether that be Demon Souls or Dark Souls, there's something about it. I love these games more than any other From Software series. There's something about these worlds, the stories, the characters, just something about the way that these games feel. They'll always be my favorite games from Software. Like, if I were to redo my ranking video from, like, a month or so ago where I ranked all the Souls games, it would honestly probably look something like what I was saying before, like Dark Souls 1, Demon Souls, Dark Souls 3, and then, honestly, I'd probably put, like, Dark Souls 2, and then Bloodborne, and then Elden Ring, and then probably Sekiro. Like, I really like Sekiro. Sekiro's a really great game. It's just, like, it's hard for me to rank it among the other Souls games because it's not really a Souls game. Like, I absolutely love that game to death, but it's really hard for me to rank it among the other games. It's just, it's such a different beast. Like, I really enjoyed that game, but rarely did I ever get the sense that I was, like, overcoming a challenge in that game, because honestly, that game just, it wasn't too challenging for me in the first place, because I already knew going in about, like, the whole deflecting system and the fact that that was, like, a huge part of the game. Now, see, if I was, like, a player that went in 110% blind and I knew nothing about deflecting or the fact that that was actually, like, the main strategy you wanted to use, then maybe I would have struggled a little bit more, possibly. Personally, I've played a lot of games in the past before Sekiro that relied on systems like that, so I honestly just didn't struggle that much. I mean, I got stuck on a couple of bosses. I don't want to throw out too many spoilers because I know there's plenty of people that still haven't played Sekiro, but all I'm gonna say is that the final boss gave me a run for my money. Outside of that, though, I just really didn't have too many moments where I felt like I was really overcoming something, or, you know, like I was leveling up as a player. I just kind of started at a certain skill level when the game started, and I just kind of finished the game around that same level. Maybe I was, like, a bit better than I was before. And again, that's not a knock against the game. I absolutely adore and love that game. It's just when I'm ranking it among the other Souls games and the criteria that I would use for ranking other Souls games, it's just, it doesn't really align with that. Anyways, back to Dark Souls 3. I could honestly praise this game for days. There is so many things that I love about this game and so many things that I could praise about this game. Like, for example, the bosses in this game. It still has my favorite boss roster in all of From Software's catalog. Like, the bosses in this game are just so good, and in terms of, like, consistency and originality and, like, least recycled bosses, every encounter, every boss encounter in this game, they all feel so unique and fun to fight and fair and well balanced. And while many people, you know, kind of knock this game for being rather linear compared to the other games, you can't deny the fact that due to it being so linear, From Software was able to master the balance of this game unlike any other Souls game that we have had up to this point. I would even go as far as to say that even after Dark Souls 3, they haven't had a game that is as well balanced as Dark Souls 3. Actually, I take that back. I would say Sekiro is probably the most balanced Souls game, considering the fact that, well, everybody is going to be using the same weapons and the same equipment, basically. Like, there's basically no way to cheese any of the enemies in Sekiro, at least that I know of, and not that I found during my playthrough. And even still, you know, there's not all sorts of, like, different stats and equipments you can level up and use. Like, it's basically, it all comes down to your skill in Sekiro, so in that sense, that one probably technically is the most well-balanced. But in terms of the Souls games as a whole, like the actual RPG ones, I would definitely say that Dark Souls 3 is the most well-balanced. And here we go, you know, it didn't take a boss to kill me. It took some random night in High Wall of Lothric. There is so many bosses in this game that I would genuinely do a full playthrough of this game for just so I could fight them again. You got bosses like the Nameless King, Abyss Watchers, the Twin Princes, Soul of Cinder, Gale if you want to include the DLC. Like, there were so many fantastic bosses in this game. Pontiff, I don't know, there's just like, there's so much that I could talk about and praise about this game, but it's like, I don't even know what to say, because I feel like if I say it, I'd just be rehashing things that we all already know. Like, the build variety and the weapons in this game are outstanding. The balance is really good. The enemy variety is great. The bosses are all basically amazing. The art direction and world design and, like, the story in this game, like, it's just, it's absolutely phenomenal. And in terms of this being, like, the finale for the Dark Souls trilogy, again, it really works. This is the perfect conclusion of the Dark Souls trilogy. Everything that you've endured, overcome, fought through, learned from in the Souls trilogy up to this point, it's all been leading to this. And it capitalizes on all the skills and lessons that you've learned throughout the other Souls games and implements them all beautifully into this game. I am so embarrassed. I can't believe I'm getting killed by this knight. Of all the enemies in this game, how am I dying to a knight? I'm just trying to light that bonfire, but the knight won't let me through. One of my favorite memories from this game is overcoming Soul of Cinder. For any of you that watched that original Dark Souls 3 playthrough, you would know I was stuck on Soul of Cinder for a total of 12 hours. And you want to know something? If I could go back, I would relive that whole 12 hours again. That was one of the most exhilarating 12 hours of my life, and I enjoyed every single second of it despite how much I died. And the best part is, during that 12 hours, I rarely raged. There was a few times I got frustrated, kind of annoyed that I couldn't overcome the boss, but for the most part, there was very few times that I genuinely raged or felt like I was being cheated of a victory, or felt like the game was being blatantly unfair in some form or fashion. Like, I knew I was the one making mistakes in that instance, and that again is just one of my favorite things about Dark Souls 3. Like, out of all of the Souls games, it feels so fair and well balanced and meticulously crafted in a way that I haven't experienced it in any other Souls game. And that's not to say, you know, that the other Souls games aren't well crafted or aren't well put together. It's just that Dark Souls 3, you know, it's really linear, it's really focused, and it just does those things so well that I would say it does it better than any of its predecessors or games that followed it. I know at this point I'm just kind of mindlessly gushing about this game, but I can't help it. I really love Dark Souls 3. I love the Souls games in general. And it's one of those things where it's like, I know I love the games, and I know kind of to an extent what I love about the games, but it's hard for me to put it in words. So then I just sit here running in circles around my own thoughts, trying to construct sentences out of what's going on in my head, and I can't pinpoint what it is. But there's just something that feels so good about this game. In fact, if I did another playthrough of this game, I guarantee my rankings would probably change just a bit, and this game would actually end up being my second place spot right behind Dark Souls 1 and taking Demon Souls spot. It's just that every time that I think about going back to Dark Souls 3, you know, I have thoughts of areas like Firelink Keep and that one jail area underground, and it kind of like deters me from wanting to do so because I know there is a few low points. But now that I'm back and playing the game right now, man, I don't know, I feel like it's almost worth going through those low points again just because of how high the highs are in this game. And for anyone curious as to why I would rank Demon Souls above Dark Souls 3, because that probably sounds crazy to most people, you know, most of the bosses in that game aren't like actual bosses outside of like Old King Olan. But I don't know, there's just something about Demon Souls, I just find myself getting so immersed in that world. Like the world, its design, the levels, the characters, there's something I find so endearing and mystical and foreboding and horrifying yet oddly welcoming about Demon Souls' world. It's really hard to explain, but it's kind of like a similar feeling that I get to Dark Souls 1's world. The game just has killer atmosphere for me. I'm not gonna lie, I'm absolutely lost right now. I have no idea where I'm supposed to go. Perhaps this is the way? Dude, I haven't played this game in so long. I have no Estus flasks. I have like a quarter of a health bar. I don't think I'll be able to take on Vordt, but you know, I might as well try, I guess. Alright, come here, buddy. I literally have a quarter of a health bar, but come on, I'll try to take you on. Let's see. This was the first boss in this game that taught me, hey, bud, you're gonna need to learn how to dodge. You aren't gonna be using that shield in this game anymore. You're gonna learn how to play the dodging game now. Okay? I remember how terrifying this boss was in my first playthrough. This first phase ain't nothing. We all know how it ramps up towards the end. Come on. See, I like this boss. I don't feel overwhelmed right now. Alright, second phase time. And there it is, there's a death. I ain't sweating it, it is what it is. I knew the first phase wouldn't be a problem, but that second phase when he charges up goes to, yeah, no. There was no way that was gonna happen. But anyway, I think I've kind of gotten my thoughts out, you know, I've gushed about this game enough. Now I want to hear from you guys. What are your guys' thoughts and opinions on Dark Souls 3? Do you guys love this game as much as I do? Or are you one of the people that, you know, weren't too hot on this game for whatever reason? I know some people weren't too fond of the structure of the game with how linear it is and all that, so whatever your thoughts are on the game, I definitely want to hear from you guys. But anyway, as always, a shout out to the patrons and channel members, Karma's Fave, Grandma, Liberty Tab, Big Data, Maddie, Chilubasaurus, Rex, Ray, Zach, Polar, Ray, the Webster, Lamas, Bianca, Spiritor, Jupixon, Malalas, King, Kuda, Imagine, Center, Vinci, Y15, Flip, Cinema, Winner, Aaron Reynolds, and Unknown. Thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day. Stay beautiful. I love you all. And remember, don't go hollow. Peace.